Religions all over the world claim to be the one true belief that is correct, including their version of the afterlife. Half of this idea are for those who have done morally incorrect things while they were still alive in our physical world. This pertains to the concept of hell, which is usually described as a place of agony where torture is experienced in a never-ending cycle. A counterpart of this is heaven, a place where a divine creature, usually titled as a god, resides. God was nice enough to let us live our lives in our physical realm. Following the ethical rules and postulates of religion gives us an opportunity to be in glory for eternity. Oftenly, the word eternity is loosely used in religion, hence minimizing our concept of what eternity really means. This makes the declaration of a never-ending occurrence be a hope for stability and familiarity. But eternity is beyond what the human mind can even comprehend. And for a divine creature described as so loving and was nice enough to let us live, what kind of God would leave you burning forever? This is a book review of Steve L. Peck's ironically titled book, A Short Stay in Hell. Two religions are mentioned in Peck's book, Mormonism and Zoroastrianism. Seren, the main character that goes to hell, was a Mormon before he died of cancer. Mormonism, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, shortened as LDS, defines their hell as the perdition. Perdition is referred to as the permanent hell. This is where souls who have defined the gospel and power of God even after learning it in the spirit world, or basically the bridge between the afterlife and physical world, go. In this place, the devil and his angels are the rulers, and this is surrounded by the lake of brimstone and fire, and an endless suffering is imposed of those who go there. One key concept to note that sinners that have done wrong things in our physical world do not necessarily go to this hell. Instead, if they accept God in the spirit world, then they go to the celestial kingdom, which is the lowest level in the 3-tier heaven. The LDS version of hell is quite similar to Zoroastrianism. However, the standards of how to get there or what to expect in it is a bit different. The devil-like creature that Seren meets before he went to hell, named Sander, introduces himself as one of the angels or Yazatas created by Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda, or the Wise Lord, is the god of Zoroastrianism, one of the ancient religions of people started by Zoroaster. Sander then tells the spirits he meets along with Seren that Zoroastrianism was the true religion. This religion pushes the belief of monotheism, unlike Mormonism, where the existence of divine creatures is separated into 3 separate entities. The core teachings of Zoroastrianism are good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. You do what is right because it is simply what is right, and not because you're going to receive a reward after it. If you do the opposites of these teachings, bad thoughts, bad words, bad deeds, then you go to their version of hell, the House of Lies. According to numerous accounts, it is a dark place with demons, pain, and discomfort. Souls are mocked by Ahriman, the deceitful, by being loathsome and terror to the damned. It is described as a torturous and even worse than what is experienced in the physical world. However, the House of Lies is not permanent. Instead, by the end of time, an entity who acts as the messianic figure comes forth and purifies everyone, even the sinners, by diminishing Ahriman and all evil. He then argues how imaginative humans are when they call something as eternal damnation. When one of the spirits spoke back and said the revelation that Zoroastrianism is the correct religion is unfair. Sander even questioned how a God so merciful would send his wicked children to a never-ending pain and agony when, at least in Zoroastrianism, there is an end. He then sends each and every soul that he meets that time to their designated hells, and Seren goes to his hell, the Library of Babel. The Library of Babel is a concept introduced through a short story by George Louis Borges in 1941. In the Library of A Short Stay in Hell, every permeation of the 95 standard English letters, numbers, and symbols are presented. That means every book written, every book that will ever be written is already there. And a total of 95 raised to 1,312,000 books are gathered. Seren's task was to find his book of life. The book emphasizes not only how unfathomable this kind of library is, but also contrasts and almost mock how we humans always term eternal damnation and eternal glory in such a loosely way. A Short Stay in Hell was the book that Seren found in his 23 raised to 439 days of being there. He has been in this hell for millions and eons of years. On one part, he even let himself fall in the library for millions and eons of years, but never really reached the bottom. And on another part, he fell, but this time for someone. Universities were created by the people Seren was with in hell, wherein the institution aimed to journey in the endless library for any logical text. It was quite interesting how universities, institutions, and social groups are formed in this kind of hell, because it almost makes you see how the world can be built again from scratch if we humans were the only ones in there. They had annual gatherings and even awards for the people who sought with their might that led them to finding phrases and very rarely complete sentences. On a journey to find books that made sense, or the book that they're trying to find in this hell, Rachel was one of the professionals that went on trips for months and years. It didn't matter how incoherent or illogical the sentences were, as long as it was something familiar, something that they can evoke hope and inspiration from. Rachel found several texts in their 102nd year, but she also became someone's heaven in hell. Seren and Rachel fell in love and became each other's pillars of hopes for years, a number that we can't even comprehend fully in our mind. For 50 years, they pretended as if they were dogs, they walked on all fours, and a bunch of people even supported them and became dogs with them. On their 708th anniversary, they played a game of tag for 12 years. Seren and Rachel were always together. If one was it, then so was the other. That was how tight they were. Everything was almost bearable, even if hell was the only place that they can be together. But then, as social groups were formed, so were the beliefs that forced itself onto other people's values, which tore Rachel and Soren apart. Diredan was the name of the leader, and his followers, the Dierites, would encourage people to not find their books, but spread sins. Diredan has spread the word that God had talked to him, and God had told him that their purpose in hell was to be taught of pain. According to him, this was the consequence of our wrongly done actions while we were still alive. This is what we deserve because we have offended God. Their sins and rebellion against God birthed the wrath in hell, without mercy, without pity, and shall be taught of the horrors of a just God. The group captured Seren and Rachel after 1,043 years of love, hope, and peace. Rachel was able to jump through the railings of the library before the Dierites could capture her, and Seren followed only months after, having his time spent being agonized by the Dierites with their brutal hands and hits. However, in a library incomprehensibly enormous, months of falling down means miles, kilometers, and even light years away. This is a very long time, but it only covers a few floors compared to the ginormousness of the whole library. And since Rachel fell months before Seren could, the distance between them is far too wide apart. When he was able to reach one side of the library to halt his fall, he called for Rachel every floor he went down and up with, on the top of his lungs. He tried to call for her in this impossibly wide library, but to no avail. Rachel was ever found. Quote, "What worse face could there be? To remember love and know it is attainable, to know love wanders somewhere light years and light years distant, ever knowing it is forever out of reach, forever hidden." In his eons of stay here, his true hell might just be the memories he had spent with Rachel, and knowing fully well that it is possible to meet with her again. But that would mean a one in an eon chance. They could reunite someday, somewhere, and somehow, but that's not for sure. Not in 1,000 years, not in a million light years away, and not for certain chance that Rachel is even still there and haven't found her own book and submitted it. For eons of years as well, Seren has met other so-called soulmates in his journey. They were together for even more eons of years compared to how Rachel and Seren was together. But still, the opening of the book was, "Although I have loved many, there has been only one genuine love in my near eternally stretched life. Rachel, who fell to the bottom of the library without me." One aspect of the library is that you are there to learn something as stated in the 9 bullet reminders plastered on a big wall. However, one of the bullets there says to not look for that lesson because it will be unproductive and frustrating, so they should just use their eons of years there to find their own book of life. I can theorize that the lesson that you're trying to find would be for Seren to realize how unimaginable eternity it is, because he believed in Mormonism, having a hell that would be damnation forever. Another question that arose while I was trying to review this was, why was everyone Seren was around with were quite similar to him? Everyone was American, they were at a specific range of age, and they all looked white and almost the same as his own person. For this one, I believe that the people in his hell were the people that he had come across with while he was still alive. I mean, you don't necessarily remember each and every person that you see, right? So for example, you're at a cafe or you're just passing by on a park, you would see a lot of people's faces and know that they are there. However, you wouldn't necessarily remember it. So I think the reason why the people in his hell were similar to him was because it was the people that he has crossed his lines with. The last question that I came up with after reading it is, why was Seren in hell if he was a Mormon? I mean, in Mormonism there are a lot of virtues and like postulates that you would need to do, right? For you to be a good person and be accepted in their version of kingdom. Additionally, he just died from cancer, one of the not even your fault type of death. And okay, I thought of my question in a very objective way, okay? I'm not saying this because I hate on a certain religion or I believe in Zoroastrianism or anything. But on my take, I think maybe Seren focused his religion on worshipping gods instead of actually integrating it with his life to be a good person. Zoroastrianism focuses on what is good and why you should do them simply because they are what is just. And if Seren was in this hell, then he must not be in the standard of what a good person is in Zoroastrianism. One question that I'm not quite sure of is, since in Zoroastrianism, you would be in hell until you are purified from your sins and all evil is extracted when a messianic figure does so. And if Seren have not found his book by the time that comes, then what happens? Would he stay in hell or would he be purified because evil is sort of eradicated already, right? I think imaginatively what would happen would be Seren would still stay in hell if a messianic figure eradicates and purifies all souls, but he still stays there until he learns his lesson. But then again, if you would stay in hell until evil is eradicated, then who even creates hell, right? It is also ironic how Seren's time in hell was so far long of how we can imagine it, but also because it is short. I mean, in eternity, eons and millions is basically nothing. Eternity is far too vast to even describe it as just millions and eons away. If it was truly eternity, then there wouldn't be any end. And in Seren's hell, there is an end. But that's just not it for a very, very long time. Another thing to note is that even though the book was just 110 pages, it covered so much ground already. Like there was hope, religions, the start of a civilization, and the very wide meaning of eternity. This was one of the books that I didn't have any large reactions or violent reactions after reading it, but when I was trying to review it and try to comprehend and just let the story digest down, that was when it was becoming scary for me. Because when you realize that your concept of eternity is not it, it's never ending, and you can't even comprehend it in your minds how never ending it truly is. It also adheres to Zoroastrianism, but in the religion proper, hell is described as a grim place, so I'm not quite sure if Zoroastrianism is truly as personalized in terms of their hell and heaven, but maybe I haven't just researched about their belief as well. So if you know anything about it, I would be really interested to know. Although Zoroastrianism proper and in the book, Zoroastrianism is just correct to you a little type of hell. It's still the burning type in the religion proper, so I'm not quite sure about it, especially because Zoroastrianism isn't really one of the most dominant religions in the world, so I'm not very familiar with it. 10 for 10 rating of this book. It's perfect for fiction lovers or philosophy and religion nerds out there. It's also not quite hard to read because it's just like what another person is saying. It's not directly formal or informal in any type of way, just the kind of book or the kind of speech that you would read. That's it. Bye!